Crimson dawn, ashes of reality. The sun hung low and weak in the sky, a dull red disk, bleeding light over the skeletal remains of what was once a thriving town. Nature had reclaimed most of it. Vines winding around blackened lampposts, trees breaking through the cracked pavement like tombstones. The only sounds were the wind and the crows. 3 cans of soup, half a jar of peanut butter, and a bottle of water. Barely enough for a day, muttered Callen, stuffing the items into a torn satchel. Callen was lean, wiry, hardened by loss and years of surviving in the Lycan age. His left eye was covered by a blackened patch, lost in a scrape with a rogue Lycan scout. His right eye, sharp as a blade, missed nothing. A former firefighter before the fall, he now moved with the careful efficiency of someone who had pulled too many broken bodies from rubble. "You always complain like we're shopping in a store," said Mira, younger, fierce, her voice marked with sarcasm that barely masked the edge of fear she always carried. She carried a rusting crowbar strapped to her belt, and a small revolver tucked into a holster made from an old bicycle tire. Her past life, a mechanic in a small coastal town, now scavenger, fighter, survivor. They moved quietly through the ruins, careful to disturb nothing that might echo or shift. Anything that made noise could lead them to death. "You hear that?" Mira froze. Callen turned. There, half buried behind an overturned fridge, was a metal door, its frame burned but intact. A storm shelter. Or maybe a basement. Callen knelt, brushing ash and dirt away. The door was bolted shut with a rusted padlock. "Could be food. Or bones," he muttered. "Or something worse." Mira glanced at the sky. "We've got maybe an hour of daylight." "Plenty of time," he said, already pulling a lockpick from his boot. The lock clunked open with a soft snap, and the door groaned as they pried it open. Inside, darkness, the scent of dust, and something else, old, ancient. Mira clicked on a small flashlight, the beam piercing the gloom. Stairs descended into a basement where cobwebs hung like drapes. They stepped carefully down. At the far end, under a thick sheet of black cloth, was a casket, ornate, untouched by rot or time. The silver handles were dulled, but unmistakably valuable. "Is that what I think it is?" Mira whispered. Callen nodded. "An elder. But why here?" They didn't have time to answer. A sound echoed in the wind, distant, mournful, and unmistakable. A howl. Callen's face drained of colour. "We have to move, now." They scrambled out of the basement. Mira grabbed a handful of dirt and scattered it behind them. Callen followed, pulling a sealed bag of acidic powder, a homemade mix of bleach, ash and vinegar. He doused their trail from the door to the street. "Cover our scent," he shouted. Mira reached into her coat, pulling out a bottle of wolfbane extract. They sprayed it into the air, a bitter, acrid scent, designed to confuse the Lycans' hypersense. Behind them, the sun slipped lower, kissing the horizon. They ran, over rooftops, through alleyways they had memorized, past crumbled walls and the rusting bones of vehicles. As darkness fell, the wind grew colder. They reached a crumbled chapel. The steeple collapsed, but the underground crypt below was intact. Inside the crypt, they ducked into a sealed chamber carved into stone. The entrance was masked by a wall of debris they had carefully disguised. Inside was silent, secure for now. They collapsed onto the cold stone floor, breathing hard. Callen stared at Mira, an elder, asleep in a basement. If the Lycan missed him, maybe there are more. Mira didn't speak. She didn't need to. They both knew. If that elder wakes, it could mean salvation or damnation. Outside, the first full-throated howl of the night shattered the silence, and the hunt began. There is no morning anymore, just a slightly lighter shade of misery. The sky hangs like a bruise, grey, dead, endless. Ash falls like snow, carried on a wind that has forgotten warmth. The cities are bones now, gnawed down by time, by fire, and by them. The Lycan rule what remains. They are not shadows in the dark. They are the dark. They do not hide from the world. They are the world. Once they were monsters whispered about in fearful myths. Now they are the only certainty. They run in packs of hundreds, sometimes thousands, moving with a precision that betrays their primal appearance. Fur soaked in filth, eyes gleaming like dying embers. They are as organized as they are savage. The cities are their playgrounds, the forests, hunting grounds, the highways, blood trails. Nothing escapes them, not for long. The hollow marches, east of the iron fields. A pack moves across a ruined bridge, once a grand structure of steel and stone. Now it's overgrown, cracked, overrun by moss and decay. The Lycans move low and swift, communicating with glances and guttural growls. They smell the air constantly, heads turning in unison. Nothing, not even rats. They've already hunted here. One slows, sniffs again. The air is dead, the scent of fear, long gone. The world is emptying. They move on. In the ash forest, south of the dead coastline, a deer stumbles through the underbrush, emaciated and twitching. It makes its 6 steps before it's torn apart. The pack doesn't even pause. Blood sprays. Flesh is consumed raw. The bones are left steaming in the cold. A cub, a smaller, adolescent Lycan, approaches too late. It whines, but no one shares. This is not a world of mercy, not even for their own. Atop the black cliffs of the north, the ruins of an ancient cathedral stand jagged against the sky like broken teeth. Once a place of worship, now a nest. The stained glass shattered, the altar used as a feeding table. Blood is smeared in patterns across the floor, symbols only the Alpha understands. Inside they gather, hundreds, maybe more, watching, waiting. The Alpha enters. He does not walk. He arrives, like thunder before the storm, larger than the rest, taller than a man, broader than any beast. His fur is midnight black, thick and heavy like armor. His arms ripple with strength that could crush stone. His jaw is marked by an ancient brand, a rune of old power burned into flesh. The Lycans kneel. His throne is forged from iron rails and bone cemented with dried blood. Skulls hang like ornaments, fangs sharpened to points. He takes his place slowly, like a king grown weary of war, yet incapable of anything else. He looks to the horizon, his domain. No emotion, no triumph. This is how it has always meant to be. The world is his, and yet he lifts his massive snout, sniffs once. Ash, rot, the bitter stench of the earth. Nothing worth his notice. He leans back, growling low, almost bored. Not out of complacency, but because he knows nothing escapes, nothing lasts. Below, across the forgotten world, small pockets of life remain, but they do not shine. They flicker, dim and terrified, like dying embers beneath the storm. The elders, the last of the vampires, cling to the ruins beneath ruins, their minds fractured, their bodies thinned. They feed on rats, on bloodless corpses, on dreams, a shadow of what they were. The humans fare no better, scavengers, vagabonds, hiding like insects. The ones who survive do so because they've learned how to leave no scent, how to never scream, how to vanish. The Lycan don't hunt for sport, they hunt for silence, and silence now covers the world like a grave. Far below, in the hollow crypt where Callen and Mira rest, the night passes without incident. No sniffing at the stone door, no claws against rock, no howls, only silence. Cold, suffocating silence, but not safety, because the Lycan own this world. And one day, even the smallest mistake will be their last. The sun had risen, but barely. Its light was no longer golden. It hung low and dull, like a dying ember, casting long shadows across the ruins. A breeze carried dust and silence across the bones of the town. And Mira moved alone. She hadn't woken Callen. She couldn't explain it, not to him, not even to herself. But the casket, it had pulled at her, like something calling from the dark, with her crowbar strapped to her side, revolver tucked tight, and a worn canvas satchel slung across her back. She slipped through the broken chapel, moving past the fallen stones and down into the crypt's narrow exit tunnel. Her boots made barely a sound on the dirt path as she crossed the valley of ash. The town stood ahead, quiet and skeletal beneath the grey sky. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back. She stepped carefully over a burned car chassis and paused, kneeling low. Tracks, clawed, heavy, fresh. Large impressions pressed deep into the soot-covered soil. At least 5, maybe 6. A Lycan hunting party had passed this way in the night. She scanned the buildings. No movement, no sounds, no shadows shifting between stone and ruin. Still, she moved faster. The ruined building loomed ahead. The fridge still lay on its side. She rounded it and froze. The metal door was sealed, tight, clean, shut. Her stomach twisted. They left it open. She dropped her satchel and yanked out her crowbar, jamming it into the seam, teeth gritted. She pulled with all her weight. Nothing. She climbed, scrambling up the cracked wall beside it, shards of old brick biting into her fingers. From the top, she looked for another entrance, another way in. Her foot slipped. The world tilted, and then blackness. She awoke in darkness, dirt, dust, cold stone beneath her. The basement. She sat up slowly, dizzy, pain radiating from the back of her skull. Her fingers touched her scalp. Wet, sticky, blood. "Damn it," she whispered. She hadn't masked her scent. They'd smell the blood, track it, hunt it. Above, she heard movement, low, shifting. Clawed feet against broken glass, snuffling, growling. The Lycan were here. They had the scent, but they weren't trying to get in. She stared at the sealed door from the inside. No rattling, no pounding, just the fevered scrape of claws circling above, searching, sniffing, roaming. They wanted her, and yet they didn't breach the door. Why? She uncorked the small bottle of vinegar and ash, the burn mix. Hands shaking, she poured it over her scalp wound. The pain was instant and white hot, like her skin was peeling away. She bit down on her fist to stifle the scream. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her back to the wall, staring into the dark, facing the door, weapon clutched tight, breath shallow. And time passed, hours maybe, the sounds of the Lycan never far. Sometimes they moved closer, sometimes farther, but never inside. It made no sense. Why weren't they entering? Then it hit her. The chapel. She hadn't masked her tracks when she left. They could follow her scent back to Callen. No, she whispered, horrified. Outside, the sky began to pale. The whispers of twilight retreated. The hunt was ending. As the first weak light broke through the cracked bricks above, the silence returned. Mira stood slowly, limping slightly, and stepped to the iron door. She pulled. It creaked, squealed, then gave way. Fresh air, dim light, freedom. But before she could step out, a sound behind her, the coffin, a groan of old wood, a shift of weight. The lid moved. Her blood ran cold. She didn't look back. She ran, up and out of the ruin, into the cold morning light. Her legs pounded against cracked stone and ash. Her breath came in panicked gasps. She didn't stop, not until the chapel rose into view, silent, still intact. But even as she descended into the crypt, one thought followed her like a shadow, clinging to her heels. What woke the coffin? And why did the Lycan refuse to enter? The chapel came into view, broken, the entrance smashed inward, stones scattered like bones, the hidden seal torn apart. No, Mira whispered. Her walk turned to a sprint, boots pounding over dirt and debris. She stumbled over a torn backpack, slid down the ruined stairwell, and landed hard at the bottom. Her scream echoed in the crypt. Callen! Blood. Everywhere. Smeared across the stone walls, pooling beneath broken supplies, trailing like a story told in red. There were claw marks, deep ones, the kind only made in panic, in pain. The fight had been brutal. Mira dropped to her knees, shaking. Her eyes caught something near the wall. Callen's eye patch, torn, bloodied, left behind like an accusation. She picked it up with trembling hands. No. Her voice cracked as the weight crushed her chest. I didn't cover the trail. I led them here. Her body shook as she collapsed against the wall, sobbing. The only person she trusted in this cursed world. Gone. Because of her. She wept so hard she didn't hear the footsteps. Not until it was too late. A voice, old and smooth like decaying velvet, broke the silence. Come now. What could possibly be so dreadful, my dear? She whirled, pulling her revolver, but stopped short. He stood at the edge of the crypt, an elder, tall, impossibly thin, draped in a long coat that had once been noble. His skin was grey, almost translucent, stretched thin over bones. His hair was white, stringy, like cobwebs clinging to a ruined chandelier. His eyes sunken, but bright with old unfathomable knowledge, locked onto hers. Get back! Mira barked, raising her weapon. Are you an elder? How did you get here in the daylight? He smiled, revealing yellowed fangs. There are always shadows, my dear, he said gently, even in the brightest of lights. Have you come to kill me? He laughed, dry and hollow. Oh, no, nothing so crude. I've come to save you. Her grip didn't loosen. You see, he continued, long ago, I delved deeper into the shadows than most of my kind. I found something there. away to cast shadows so deep, even the Lycan refused to enter them. Mira's eyes narrowed. Is that why they didn't go into the basement? Why they didn't attack you? He gave a slight bow. Yes, most of them can't bear it. My kind of darkness unsettles them, confuses them. That said, the larger ones, the true alphas, they are not so easily fooled. He took a step forward. Mira raised the revolver again. Oh, come now, he sighed. Let's not pretend I pose a threat to you in my current state. I'm famished. His lips curled upward again. Would it be too much to ask for a bit of sustenance? Mira backed away. You're not feeding on me. He sighed again, theatrically, and pulled a small glass bottle from his coat. It sloshed with murky red liquid. I brought this. It's what they use to give out at blood banks to help recovery after donating. You'll be fine. Single cut, perhaps a sip or two. She didn't speak. Let's look at it like this, he said softly, almost charming now. I'll keep you hidden, safe. I'll keep the Lycan from tearing your throat out in the night. All I ask is a donation. She looked at the bloodied room, Callen's patch, her tears still wet on her face. She rolled up her sleeve. One cut, she said through clenched teeth. The elder's face split into a grin, so wide it barely looked human. Lovely. He stepped forward, took her wrist gently, and bit, delicately, like sipping from a wineglass. Mira winced, breathing hard, watching his face twitch with ecstasy. After just a moment, he pulled back. He looked different, taller, eyes clearer, his spine straighter. Ah, he whispered. That feels divine. He reached into his coat and produced a silk cloth, dabbing at his lips. My name, he said, is Veyron. Mira clutched her arm, still glaring. I propose an alliance, he continued, between you and I, and perhaps others, should we find any. I offer protection. My shadows will keep the beasts at bay. In return, all I ask is, well, you know by now. Mira looked at him, then at the ruined chamber where Callen had fought and bled. Her face hardened. Deal. Veyron's grin returned. This is the start of a beautiful friendship. I can feel it. He turned towards the crypt stairs, his long coat flowing like smoke behind him. But first, he said, may I suggest we return to my basement? It is far safer than this slaughterhouse. I've already taken the liberty of fetching supplies, food, water, even candles. One mustn't sulk in the dark without atmosphere. Mira stared at the blood-stained wall for a long moment, then turned. I have nothing left here. Then she followed him into the shadows.